Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Listen, man, Gervonta Tank Davis is an amazing fighter, right? But the reality is this, and you know we really need to talk about it, man. What happens to Tank Davis if he actually has to do jail time? Now, for those of you who may have forgotten, Tank Davis just got through probably the biggest fight of his boxing career, and what many would say was the biggest fight that could have been made in boxing right now. But the thing is this, man. He's due to be sentenced on May 5th. Now, it's real unfortunate for me, you know. To me, it's real unfortunate for Tank Davis, who I got to be careful not to refer to him as a young man because he's almost 30. Okay, but it's very unfortunate to see the position that he's in, and talking about getting to the mountaintop, right? Just to get knocked off. Now, for those of you who are out there who have an opinion that Tank Davis isn't going to get any jail time, let me tell you this. I don't know what's going to happen, but in my opinion, if the judge, if she really wanted to stick it to Gervonta Davis, I don't think she would have agreed with pushing back the sentencing. I don't think she would have agreed with moving back court dates. I think she would have said, look, it is what it is. We're not going to accommodate you. And she would have been a bit more iron-fisted. However, we know that this judge said that she didn't feel unsupervised house arrest was enough. There needs to be more when it comes to the type of punishment Gervonta Davis is going to receive. Now, we don't know what he's going to get, but I definitely feel there's going to be some kind of jail time involved here. And that's just me. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. What I'm telling you is plenty of crap starts to stink. And although I think Gervonta Davis has learned from his mistakes, I really do. I think Gervonta Davis has learned from his mistakes. I don't think Gervonta Davis is going to be in a rush to put his hands on anyone again. I don't think he's going to be in a rush to be behind a vehicle intoxicated, to be riding in a vehicle with a friend who's behind the wheel intoxicated. I think Gervonta Davis is going to want to keep his nose clean, because the same way he has that thread of aggression that runs through him as a result of just how he grew up and being a product of his environment, he now has a new thread that runs through him where he realizes, I've changed the narrative. I've changed the trajectory that I was on. I'm in a position where I can now do that for other people. So we're going to see just what happens with the sentencing, but it's supposed to be happening on May 5th. I heard May 2nd, but it's sometime the first week of May. I'll put it to you like that. And if he does go to jail, right? If he does go to jail, what happens when he comes out? Now, the thing is, for people who need to understand, he could be facing, right, up to 7 years in prison, man. Right? If charged for that hit and run incident. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a problem. And we look at Floyd Mayweather. People are comparing Gervonta Davis to Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather went to jail for a short period of time. He wasn't involved in a situation that, let me tell you something. he was involved in a situation where there was a car accident. People in another vehicle were injured. Their vehicle was smoking. You know what I'm saying? And they begged for help, and Floyd Mayweather fled the scene. There wasn't an issue where there was some kind of domestic violence, a couple of different domestic violence charges. The most recently was the one where he was being charged, right? There were counts of battery to cause bodily harm. What I'm telling you with Gervonta Davis is there's a bit more involved here. But if he goes to jail, look, I really don't want to hear that this man gets sentenced to 7 years. If he gets sentenced to the maximum, which I doubt that's going to happen, his career's over, man. You know what I'm saying? To go in at 28, come out at 35, I mean, it's over. You know what I'm saying? There's only so much training you can do, and I think after a while, you can lose focus. But if he gets hit with a 30 days, 60 days, I think anything after 45 days, that can take a pound of flesh out of you. But for him, let's say he only gets a 30-day sentence, right? If he gets sentenced to any jail time at all. But I can't see him not getting it. But we don't know. We're just having a conversation. But if he does go to jail, right? And he comes out, let's say it's 30 days or whatever, and he comes out. Does that help his profile? Or does that hurt him? I personally think it'll help his profile. I think he'll come back, especially depending on who he comes back to fight. And I think his profile will grow. Because now, let me tell you something, whether it's good or bad, when you have things that can add to your story, when you have things going on in your life that can bring attention on you, those are opportunities. And this to me is an opportunity for Tank Davis to really add to his story and do something that not many people are expecting from him. I'll tell you right now, man, you know, when I go out here and canvass the internet and read articles on him, I look at some of the comments people make about Tank Davis. Let me tell you something. There's two things that people say about Tank Davis. One is that he's a great fighter with power, right? Two, that he's a thug, right? Those are the two things here. He's a thug, but he's a great fighter. And I think with Gervonta Davis coming out of jail, I think he's going to want, especially now, I think he's going to want to kind of leave that whole thing about being a thug, being a tough guy behind. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something, man. That gets you nowhere. You know, I've seen, and I'm telling you, man, in the capacity that I was in for quite some time, I've seen people come into that arena that I was in where that had no place whatsoever. And they learned real quick. And a lot of these people who came in trying to play like a tough guy, tough girl, Al Capone, you know what I'm saying? Once they lost that opportunity and they were booted out of that arena, they regretted it and to this day wish they had an opportunity to do it over again. But unfortunately, in that arena I was in, you just don't get that. You know what I'm saying? When people are coming to you and trying to talk to you and have conversations with you and steer you away from those problems, but you still want to be Tupac, you want to be Al Capone, and when the real deal starts, you see people can't handle it. And I personally have someone who I still keep in touch with to this day. We talk about it all the time. That guy, let me see, 47, yeah, he probably would have retired 2-3 years ago. But he wanted to play a tough guy. Now with Tank Davis, he may have an opportunity to come back and do things a little bit differently. He's got a great personality. He's got a great smile. You see him get in front of the camera, dancing, the little weird dances that he's doing, having fun. You can see that he's a fun guy. But sometimes we got to deal with those inner demons, man. And I'm telling you from experience, man, you know, Even I had to try to deal with some of that, man, and it's still in you. Push the wrong buttons, things can surface. I think we all have a breaking point. But for Tank Davis coming back, and if he can change his approach to how he handles some things, kind of learn what those trigger mechanisms are, and know how to recognize when he's about to be triggered. And most importantly, get the hell away from toxic people. That's men and women. You don't need to be around that, man. And I really think if Gervonta Davis can make those refinements, I think Gervonta Davis can go on to really become the face of boxing. Because when he returns to the ring after this sentencing, if he goes to jail, if he has to go away from the sport for a while, right? Whether it's 1 week, 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, a year. Whenever he comes back and his next opponent, all eyes are going to be on Gervonta Davis. And power ain't going nowhere. That skill set ain't going nowhere. That muscle memory he has isn't going nowhere. The man's 28, been boxing nonstop since he's been 7 years old. So it's not going anywhere. And I'm sure he's going to be in a different capacity than most people if he goes to jail. I don't think he's just going to be wandering around there amongst the population. I just can't see that. But I will tell you this. I think you hear the Adrian Broners, the Floyd Mayweathers, and I get tired of hearing this saying, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. The minor setback for a major comeback. I thought I would never say that, but because I get tired of hearing them say it. But in his case, this is a major setback, which should be for an even major comeback. Because I'm telling you, for those who are saying Tank's about to go fight Pitbull Cruz or Tank's about to fight Devin Haney, let me tell you something. Tank is about to go fight this damn court system. And that's the biggest challenge in Tank Davis' life right now. And he knows it. We're going to see how the cards fall. But when we talk about a lot of fighters, boxers in particular, who went to prison or did jail time, right? There was a guy, man, and it's unfortunate, but Tank is kind of going this direction, right? It is what it is. But I don't know if you guys remember a guy named Richard Towers. He stood about 6'8", and he was a guy who was a huge prospect in the heavyweight division. Now, he was a former gang member and ended up spending 13 years in prison for kidnapping a man, and the man was tortured with steam irons, guns, hammers, and a stun gun. That torture lasted 3 days. But the problem is, although this guy wasn't involved in the torture, he was part of the kidnapping. So his career came to an end. You had Edwin Valero, which was one of the most exciting boxers of recent times. This man had 18 consecutive first-round knockouts. I think that's a record. And he was 27 wins with 27 KOs. Let me tell you something. He was arrested on suspicion for murdering his wife, and then he was found dead in a hotel, man. Now, they felt that they said he had a history of beating on his wife and hurting his wife. But those are just crazy situations where you got boxers who made bad choices, and some of them even went on to kill themselves, like in Valero's case. There's still a whole lot around that story saying that someone else killed Valero in his jail cell. You find the man hanging in the cell, and you get the prison guards there. But I definitely believe the police killed him, but that's my opinion. Talk about a fighter who had all the momentum going. James Kirkland. This guy had massive potential when it came to boxing. Huge potential. I remember right before his dumbass ended up getting sentenced to jail, he had the biggest payday of his life right in front of him. I think he was going to get paid like a little bit short of $400,000. But he was on the road to success. He was about talking about somebody who was right on the cusp of becoming one of the biggest stars in boxing. James Kirkland, after he beat I think the guy's name was Julio Romero, whatever, is a Colombian fighter who was knocking everybody out. And he hit Tank Davis, he hit what's his name, Kirkland with some hard shots. And Kirkland pushed through it, man, and beat the crap out of that dude. But anyway, he went out there, man, got himself in some trouble, and ended up in jail, man. And as an amateur, he was 134 wins with 12 losses. And half of those 12 losses were controversial, so it is what it is, man. But those ghosts of the past, man, messed him up. Went to jail for a couple of years for armed robbery. He was never the same. Then you had James Butler, who was a world challenger. You guys probably recognize that name because he's the guy who hit his opponent after the opponent had outboxed him, right? Butler approached the opponent, they call him the alien, Grant, and hit him with a vicious right hook, knocking him out. And Grant had to get 23 stitches on his tongue, and he had a broken jaw. But the thing about it is Butler ended up doing 29 years. He ended up being sentenced to 29 years in prison for the murder of Max Kellerman's brother. He beat him to death with a hammer and set the apartment on fire. That's absolutely crazy. One of the more extreme stories. Then, of course, we had Mike Tyson. I don't think we need to really dive into that too much. We all know he went to jail, man, lost some good years of his prime, came back. Still a great fighter, but his best years were behind him. Ike Ibeabuchi, I actually know someone who knows him. We were talking about Ike Ibeabuchi being charged with sexual assault in a hotel room and going to jail. And my partner told me that, you shouldn't believe that story about Ike Ibeabuchi. But when I tell him that the hotel staff around him found a half-naked woman running around scared for her life and Ibeabuchi being barricaded in the bathroom, he didn't really have an answer for me. Because what I hit him with was facts. I don't know what happened in that room, but to find a woman running around screaming and Ike Ibeabuchi barricading himself in the bathroom makes you wonder what the hell he was running from. And Clifford Etienne, talk about a guy getting an opportunity, right? Getting an opportunity while serving 40 years for armed robbery. He took up boxing, right? Check this out. He was released after 10 years on good behavior. Started in boxing. Man got a prison record of 30-0. And let me tell you something. He turned professional at 28. Ended up going 29-4-2. But this fool, it's just a sad story, man. This fool's career came to an end after a cocaine-fueled crime spree, which included robbery, carjacking, kidnapping a family, and shooting at 2 police officers. Was sentenced to 160 years without the possibility of parole. And he fought Mike Tyson. Absolutely crazy. And then you have Dewey Bozella. Everybody should know that name, Dewey Bozella. He's kind of unique to the list because he spent 26 years in prison for murdering Emma Krapser, a 92-year-old, in a botched robbery in 1977. Now, what makes this unique is that he was, in fact, innocent of the charge made against him. And during his time in prison, he learned to box and dedicated his life to prison boxing program. He vowed one day that the unjustified sentence would be overturned and he would just have one professional fight. On October 28th, he walked free, and after it was discovered that crucial evidence that would have exonerated him had been hidden from the courts. On October 15, 2011, he was 52. He made his pro debut and beat a guy named Larry Hopkins in a 4-round unanimous decision. So when you look at these stories, I'm telling you right now, right? Mayweather's another one. Nothing as extreme as these guys, but someone who was fighting as a pro in his prime, and Mayweather ended up going to the joint and coming out and continuing his career. With Tank Davis, we don't know if he's going to be as lucky as Mayweather. And yeah, I'll say the word lucky, although there's a chance he's going to prison, which I think he's going to go. To jail, to prison, he's going to the joint. It's just how long. But his name is now going to be added to this list of boxers who have ended up going to jail, right? The thing is, what's he going to do when he comes out? He has a whole laundry list of opponents he can face. But if he can get it all together, Tank Davis is out of here to a whole nother stratosphere. Problem he's going to face is like what Mike Tyson faces. People don't want to let that stuff go. They want to constantly remind people of the mistakes they made in the past. They don't want to let anyone else start off on a clean slate. They don't want to give them the ability to reset. They want to remind them of all the wrong that they've done. And for that, I don't think it's right. Once somebody goes to jail and they serve their sentence, I'm not saying we should forget, but I definitely don't think it's cool to constantly remind them of those mistakes, especially when they're trying to get their life together. But that being said, more to come on old Tank Davis. But I really think he's going to get some jail time, but I'm hoping it's nothing crazy. I know some people feel, hey, lock him up, throw away the key. I ain't quite like that, right? But what I will say is, when he comes out, if he gets jail time, but if he comes out and he picks up where he left off, I'm telling you, man, his whole image, the whole aura around him, his whole story just gets bigger 10 times. And I think that could help project him to really becoming the face of boxing. But that being said, more to come on Gervonta Tank Davis. Y'all keep cool. And again, I want to say this. There's nothing funny about the stuff that he got himself involved with as far as, the allegations about the domestic issues with the two females, the hit and run issue. There's nothing funny about it. I'm not downplaying it. What I'm saying is, let's wait and see what happens with the sentencing. And I do think after he gets through all of that, when he gets an opportunity to return to boxing, I think he deserves to have all the support in the world. We've all made a lot of mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I'm 47. I can look back at shit, man, and know I didn't get caught for certain things. I've done a lot. I can't be the only one. So I can't sit here, man, and take it to the stupid. But what I can do is say, hey, make sure you make those refinements. And if there's an overhaul necessary to however you conduct business, you need to do it. If you got people in your circle that are toxic, get rid of them. Because Tank Davis can't afford to go through any more situations dealing with the law. Look at Adrian Broner. It's not good. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. Good luck to Gervonta Davis. I'm in the breeze.